to make our scrolling enemy or a moving enemy or moving block or whatever your game is going to have in it, mine's a moving robot. We have to do a couple of steps, and it's going to look kind of complex, but I think once you kind of break it down, I think that you will be fine. So first things first, we need one of those enemies in this scene. We don't have that yet, so I'm going to right click on my hierarchy and create an empty. And this empty, I'm going to call moving robot. And inside here, I'm going to put, well, actually first, let's take moving robot, reset the transform position back to 0, 0, 0. You can see that moved it back to the corner there. And then I'm going to grab my robot and put that in there. And then reset it to 0, 0, 0. It's just easier if everything's reset to the same location. It gets a lot less confusing later on whenever we're moving things around. So I'm going to go ahead and put this kind of where I want it. I know I want my enemy to be somewhere along, like to go back and forth along this top portion. So I'm just going to set him just somewhere in here. It's not even going to be the starting point or the ending point. I'm going to click on moving robot, my empty object, and create another empty object. And I'm going to show you a neat naming trick. So this one we're going to call, I guess I'll call it point, and then a space, parentheses, the number 1, parentheses. Now, if I take this and let me reset that, make sure it's back to 0, 0, 0, I'm going to put it where I want it. So I know it's going to be here. So I want my enemy to scroll back and forth from here to over here. Now I want to make a point 2, so I'm going to duplicate that, and it automatically made that parentheses 2, which makes it a lot easier. So I'm just going to drag it straight over. I don't want it to do any up and down movement, so I just moved it straight across, like so. And now I have basically 2 reference points on this object that I'll use to tell my robot like what direction it should be moving towards, which is incidentally move towards is in the script that we're going to be using. We are going to make a new script for our moving robots. So in script folder, right click, create a new script. Let's call this, just call it moving robot because I want it to be named the same as the object it's attached to. I like doing that. And I'm going to drag it up. Make sure you don't attach it to the robot. Attach it to the moving robot. So let me see here. Didn't actually get that dragged on there. There we go. Make sure that didn't accidentally get added to something else whenever it errored. Nope. Okay, good. So moving robot script is attached to the moving robot object, and I'm going to go ahead and open this up. This script is, we're going to take it in a couple of stages. First, we're going to figure out how to move the robot from where it currently is to another location, and then figure out how to make it reset itself so that it goes back and forth between 2 points, or however many points we want to give it. Honestly, it could be more than 2. Almost. All right. We're going to need these, so I'll just leave them for now. But we definitely are going to need some serialized fields here. So I'm going to type them out, and I'll explain how we're going to use them as we go along and why we need them. So serialized field, we're going to have a game object. And you might call this moving block, or you might call it moving bot. I'm going to call mine patrol bot because I think of my robots as patrolling. Basically, they're going to be like scrolling back and forth like as if they were guards. On yours, it might just say moving block. It is okay to name your stuff different things than I name my things because your game is themed differently than mine. So what makes sense for me may not make sense for you. So feel free to put in there whatever makes sense to you, and just know that wherever I use PatrolBot, you use whatever you named yours. Variables, as long as it makes sense to you, who am I to tell you that it's wrong? We're going to have another serialized field. It is going to be a float. And this one we want to be our move speed. It's basically just how fast that robot is going to move across the screen. We're going to go ahead and set that equal to 2f so that it has a starting value. Serialized field. This one is going to be a transform. Now remember, transform is the component that tells Unity where an object is. So if you're looking at this transform, this is its location right here. Its position, its rotation, and its scale are all held within the transform component. So if we are putting in a transform, it is the basically location of something. So that's what a transform is. And then I'm going to call this current dest, short for destination. So it's going to be whatever my robot is currently moving towards. Then we need a serialized field. We're going to have a lot of these, like I said. Another transform. This one is going to be an array of transforms, meaning there is kind of like our scenes, where we had an array of scenes for our Choose Your Own Adventure game. This one's going to be an array of transforms. We'll call this destinations. The reason I'm writing this way is because now I can add however many destinations I want. So say instead of wanting to go just back and forth, I could also go back, forth, down, over, up, and that would be just as valid. So the code is flexible enough to allow me to do that. So an array of transforms for destinations. And one more serialized field. This is going to be an integer, and it's going to be destination select. This is going to be whatever destination is currently selected for our game. So let me fix my lines so that it looks good to me. It's important to me. Okay. So first, let's set our current destination. So current destination is going to be equal to our destinations array and whatever one is currently selected. So we'll have an array of destinations. We will select whichever one we want to use, and that's going to be our current one that we're moving towards. And then we're going to, every frame in our game, we are going to take the patrol bot's transform.position, and we're going to move it. So kind of similar to the ball push that we did. We're going to use vector2 dot move towards, which is new for you guys. And then move towards, you can see whenever I put these parentheses in, it gives me a hint. It wants to know where the thing currently is, where the thing is going to, and then a float variable for the last one. So you might notice conveniently up top we have basically that information. So move towards, we want the patrol bot dot transform dot position for its current destination. We want current destination, or that's not its current destination, that's where it currently is. Sorry. Current destination dot position for where it's going towards. So it's going towards where we've set our current destination. And then our move speed. And then we are going to multiply our move speed by time dot delta time to make it frame rate independent. So no matter how fast or slow your computer is, it will move at the same speed. And just check over in Unity and see how that bit of code works. Okay, if we hit play. Oh, it's not been assigned yet. I didn't do any of my assigning. Let's clear all that because that's going to be real angry. Okay, so on this script, you'll notice I have a bunch of things that I have not done anything with. So patrol bot, I'm going to drag in my red robot from up top, that's childed to moving robot, so that it links whenever I click on this. It's clearly this red robot, not every red robot that exists in my scene. And then my movement seeds 2, that's fine. Current destination, that's fine. But I need to put my destinations in. So let's drag point 1 and point 2 into this, just like you did with your scenes, basically. And destination select is already set to 0, so it will automatically select point 1 as the first place it wants to go. That's fine for me right now. Let's hit play and see if this works. Okay, it went back to point 1 and it stopped. So you might notice that over here, current destination switched to point 1 because destination select was set to point 1, and that is fine. So array index out of range. So what is going on with my green robot here? Oh, my green robot ended up with my script on accident. So that's not something that will probably happen to you. That was just a fluke. Let's hit play again and make sure. Yeah, now we're good. Okay, so he moved back over to the left. Perfect. Now we need to figure out the code that will tell him from once he reaches his destination how to change on the fly to whatever his next destination is. So in our update, right now we're just saying go to this place. And then now we need to say if you're at the place, then do this other thing. So let's say if our patrol bot dot transform dot position is equal, meaning it is set equal to the current destination dot position, basically saying if it reaches that place, what do I do then? And then we're going to take destination select and add to it like so. Let's just check this little bit of code and see if it figures this part out, because I know there's going to be a problem. You might be able to predict it, but let's see what happens. Okay, so he scrolls backward. I think he might be running into that wall in retrospect. So let's take this, scoot it in just a little bit further. Oh, you know what? That's not what what's doing is just I never reset the current destination. Let's go back in here. Destination select plus plus, and then we need to reset our current destination, right? It never changed because we didn't tell it to. Nope. Destinations. Array. Dest select. Let's double check that and see if it works. There we go. Now he's going to go over here. And once he gets to the other side, I think it's going to throw us an error. Yes. Threw us lots of errors very fast because the script was moving very quickly. But basically, this error is saying the array index is out of range because once it gets to point 2, there are no points after it, and we aren't telling it what to do with that information. So between these two things, we need to have another if statement that says if our dest select is equal to destinations dot length, which you might remember was a similar error that we fixed in a similar way on our Choose Your Own Adventure game, then we will reset our destination select to 0. So if it equals as long as the array is, so basically if it says 1 and our array is only 0 and 1, then we will take that and reset it back to 0. So it'll go back to where it needs to go. There's that. Let's watch him scroll. May crank up his speed a little bit here. Boop, boop, boop. Gets to the other side, goes back. Perfect. Let's make sure, just watch him for one more pass. Yep, perfect. He does exactly what I expect him to do. There is one error I encountered while I was messing with this in practice, and it is basically our red block, I decided that I do want him breakable. Eventually, I do want him to have health where he is breakable, but it takes a couple of hits to kill him. So right now, his is breakable is set to true, and whenever I destroy the red robot, moving robot no longer has access to red robot, and it starts throwing an error. So we have to add one tiny little piece of code to this on here. Let me double check it. Yeah. So on update, say if patrol bot is not equal to null, and then put curly bracket before and curly bracket after everything. So basically saying as long as the patrol bot is there, do these things. If the patrol bot's not there, then skip all this other stuff. You save that. It should be good. You probably didn't run into the problem unless you started playing while it was moving. But now everything should be good. All should be running fine. And whenever I destroy the patrol bot, so boop, all is well. Perfect. So now there's some neat things you can do with this. But first, now that we have everything working, let's go ahead and make this moving robot a prefab so that we can add that to any of our other scenes. So drag it down to our prefabs folder. And let's save this scene. And go to level 2. Now here I already had 2 red robots in my scene, but I'm going to delete them and add in my patrol robots. So drag in moving robot. Now I have 1, and let's set where I want him to go. So I want this guy to go from here, and I want him to reach the middle and go right back. So he's just going to do a short little path that kind of covers this gap right here. And on moving robot, whenever I click on this, the everything is still set just fine. So whenever I add in a second one from my prefabs, let's move you over here. And just like I've been doing, just for aesthetics, I've been flipping them so that they're looking towards the center. I don't, it's cute to me, but it's not necessary. So something neat you'll notice is on the moving robot script, whenever you click on these to see how they are linked, like so, you can tell it's only 0.1 and 0.2 on this one. So this one has 2 different 0.1 and 0.2s. So let's say for this robot, this particular one, I want it to do something very different. I want it to have 4. I want it to move in like kind of a square. So I want him to start right here. And I'll have to zoom out to grab this other one. Zoomed in too much. Oh no. Okay. Once he's there, I'm going to actually grab this X and just copy it and paste it because I know I want him to line up. I want him to go up here. And then I'm going to duplicate for 0.3. I'm going to have him come over here and then duplicate 0.3 and have him come down here. So again, let's take this one's Y, let's see, 0.1's Y position and copy that into 0.4's Y position. That way he doesn't do any weird shimmying up and down. I want him to go straight across. Yeah, so you notice these aren't prefabbed, that's fine. I want 2 to be the standard and, adding extra pieces to be different. So I'm not worried about that. I don't want to have to delete extra pieces off of my script every time because that gets to be more hassle. But to add these into mine, I'll just drag them down to my destinations. My computer is laggy today. Doesn't like it living. And 0.3 and 4 are on here. So now when I run this game, I should have this guy moving back and forth, and this one should be moving in a square. And he resets just perfectly like normal. So you see, we've made a very, very flexible script that we can use to make basically any type of moving object. And you might be trying to think of how this would be useful in other stuff. You could definitely moving platforms in games happens a lot. Any scrolling enemy that needs to move back and forth between 2 points. I think that that would be a great way to do it. But this is pretty simple, and now that it's prefabbed, it's pretty easy for me to just throw these robots into every scene. And I think that's pretty good as far as what functionality we need to add to these robots. I think next we should maybe make these guys a little bit tougher, and give them some, effectively we'll call them hit points, and make it so that it takes a couple of hits to kill these guys. They look a little bit bigger and tougher than my green robot, so I think that that's appropriate for them to be harder to break. So we'll work on that next.